You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Chip Gilchrist, voice of the Kingston Frontenacs. You're listening to OHL Overtime, an in-depth interview show highlighting the players, coaches, and broadcasters from around the Ontario Hockey League who make the league so great, as well as in-person coverage of events such as the OHL Playoffs, OHL Championship Series, OHL Combine, and more, exclusively on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Here's your program host, Brandon Caputo.
Welcome into another episode of OHL Overtime and another game recap here in the OHL Playoffs for round one between the Sudbury Wolves and the Mississauga Steelheads. The Wolves finishing off the series, a score of 4-1 in the series, 6-2 on the score sheet. Brandon Caputo here with you to break it all down, and I'm pleased to be joined once again as a guest co-host tonight for the man that called the game for the Sudbury Radio on CKLU. And that would be Mark Pare. Mark, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us. It was an interesting series that you've been able to call here for Sudbury. Unfortunately, your time with the Guelph Storm on Rogers TV came to a screeching halt this week, but really appreciate being able to join us once again.
Hey, it was a busy week, and I'm glad to finish it off with you.
Absolutely. So, guys, make sure to follow the podcast on X at Armchair GM Pod, and thank you to those today listening today on your favorite audio platform. You can give us some love on that as well. All of our episodes are available on YouTube Podcast by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network, and we're available on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok if you're into all that sort of thing. So we'll get into it tonight. And Mark, initial thoughts here. Very young Steelheads team. It's a lot of 16, 17-year-olds against a veteran team like the Sudbury Wolves that you've been able to call on many occasions this year. And again, came into this game saying you had to keep them out of the box. That was going to be the main thing with the Steelheads. They gave up 4 goals on 9 power plays to the Sudbury Wolves in Game 4, and that really did them in. And unfortunately, they got in some more penalty trouble tonight. We'll get into it in our game stats, but the Wolves, once again, for their 6 goals on the man advantage, and really just a microcosm of the entire series.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, you think about the last 2 games, that's 8 for 14 on the power play. That's about a 52-53% clip. I'm no mathematician, but when you're scoring at a 53% clip on the power play, you're probably going to win more often than not. And for the Sudbury Wolves, with the amount of firepower they have, you mentioned the Mississauga Steelheads, many saying that they're probably about a year ahead of schedule with the way they played this season. A lot of young sharpshooters on that team. Jack Ivankovic looked absolutely magnificent when called upon for the Steelheads, but unfortunately for them, just a Sudbury surge did them in.
Quickly about the lineup, Mark, it was interesting. We had a goaltending change for the Sudbury Wolves. No Jakob Vondras tonight for the Sudbury Wolves. Kind of got nicked up there in Game 4. Stayed in the game, did finish it off there, but it was Marcus Vandenberg, the former Niagara Ice Dog, getting the start for the Sudbury Wolves in the net, and he was backed up by Nate Krawchuk, their third goaltender, who has played a lot as well. They've had kind of 3-goalie rotation there all season long, and Marcus Vandenberg got the start. And as for the Mississauga side, Jack Ivankovic started, but Ryerson Leaders was able to dress once again after getting a hurt in Game 2, so he was able to dress as the backup, and we'll hear from James Richmond later on about his status. But what did you think from the goaltending matchup tonight?
I thought it was fantastic. Marcus Vandenberg, his first career Ontario Hockey League playoff start. Of course, only his second. I believe he got into a little bit in Game 4, but came on in relief last season when he was still a member of the Kitchener Rangers. That was a Game 2 in London, no less. London was winning that series 1-0, and they were blowing the Rangers out of the water in round 2 of that one. Came on, looked strong when called upon in such a big game situation there. And remember, this is a kid in his third Ontario Hockey League team. Remember, he played for the Stratford Warriors in the GOJHL. Looked solid in 21-22 in that postseason. 10 playoff games, had a 2 goals against, a .931 save percentage, so you know he can handle the load. The question was, can he handle the load in a playoff scenario at this level, in Major Junior? So far, looking at what he did in this game, especially in the early going, he made a number of 10-bell saves and really kept the tide from turning the Steelheads' direction, and the Wolves were able to capitalize. When you look at Jack Ivankovic, another young goaltender, just 16 years old, comes on in relief, back last week, and has really blossomed into what many thought that he was going to be. 7th overall in the priority selection. It's the guy that's positionally sound, makes the saves when he needs to. You haven't really seen too many 10-bell saves, but that's the hallmark of a good goaltender. They don't need to be that Dominic Hasek, sprawl around the crease, make that glove save in the air out of absolutely nowhere type of goaltender. I consider many goaltenders, when you want to look at prime examples of good guys that aren't really scrambling all too much and that are positionally sound, look at a guy like Carey Price. Not a guy that, obviously he's going to make the 10-beller when he needs to, but he's a guy that's positionally sound. He'll be at the right place at the right time to make the saves to keep his team in it. And that's the prime example that we saw here tonight. You saw a little bit of scrambling from both netminders, mind you, but both really showcased that they're strong in the mental game, and that's what you need to be if you're a netminder. Put yourself in the right position at the right time to make the saves. A number of times you saw with Vandenberg tonight where he was already in the white paint when he's making glove saves, when he's making pad saves. They're controlling rebounds. And again, it's all about making yourself look big. And for these two guys, I don't think either of them are over 6 feet tall. You look at the NHL nowadays and you see guys that are 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", guys that are 6'4". They can basically be a wall and just stretch out if they want to and make saves. That's how big they are. But when you're a smaller netminder and you're moving up the ranks, you know that being a smaller netminder, you have to be agile. You have to be mobile. Both of these two demonstrated that here tonight by being those mobile, active goaltenders. And again, just put themselves in the right place at the right time to make the key saves that they needed to.
And lastly, about the lineup changes, Stevie Leskovar suspended for the Mississauga Steelheads after that 5-minute major in Game 4, so Reed Gee was the 6th defenseman for the Steelheads, and they were still without Leenders and Eggleton as well. So a couple lineup changes. Sherratt did come back in after his suspension. Did you really see anything on the defensive side with James Richmond having to mix up the defensive pairs with Leskovar out of the lineup?
Not really. I felt with the 6 that they had out there, they worked the back end quite well. Sudbury did kind of get into their grill a little bit and utilized their physicality a little bit more as the game went along. But I felt the back end was pretty good. When you have guys that are puck-moving defenders, you have guys that are back there that are more defensive on the back end. They really complement each other. You have guys that can move up the ice. I really felt Fibiger pinched in quite a bit here tonight. You saw him a lot below the dots, moving up the zone and just trying to just start the plays going. And a lot of offensively minded Steelheads defenders were on the ice tonight, and they didn't really make too many mistakes, but unfortunately for them, it wasn't that were the mistakes. It was finding yourself in the penalty box one too many times, and that's what the Sudbury Wolves were able to capitalize on in the end. It's having more guys on the ice on the power play and putting the puck in the back of the net when they needed to. I thought the Steelheads were, good for their money for the defense that they displayed, but it was the special teams that reared its ugly head as it has all series.
It absolutely did, and we'll get to that in our game stats brought to you by J&L Flooring. If you think get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack. Contact our Niagara Falls location, begin your quality flooring project today. The Wolves outshot the Steelheads 32-28. The Steelheads did fight back in the second period 10-8, but then the Wolves took over 13-5 in the final period. The power play, as you mentioned, special teams was big. Sudbury 4 for 5, just a lethal power play. And 4 of their 6 goals came with demand advantage. Mississauga did get 1 on their 4 opportunities. Face-off wins 35-29 in favor of Sudbury. Did you feel like this game was officiated one side? I hate to get into officiating with you, Mark, right now.
Don't get me started.
with how the other series ended. But did you see anything that may have swayed it a little bit more in Sudbury's end? Because I know talking to some people on the Mississauga side, there might have been some calls that were missed and or not called and, went Sudbury's way. Did you see any of that, or did you think that, Sudbury just took advantage of their opportunities?
I feel like it's a little bit of both. I feel like Sudbury took advantage of their opportunities. I do feel there were some missed calls on both ends. I mean, especially in the third period. I felt there was a 15, 20-second segment of that period where I felt there were a couple of infractions. I believe it was an interference call on the near side that went missed, and then what was probably a slashing call on the other end, if I'm not mistaken. But I do recall there were a couple of moments that I was calling the game, and I said, that should have been called. That should have been called, going toward the Mississauga side. And I think that's probably what kind of grinds their gears a little bit in that third period when you're trying to make a comeback. And suddenly the whistles do start to go away. But I do feel like it was a well-officiated game by the crew that we had here tonight.
We had one fight as well.
We had one fight,
and
yes,
we
indeed.
also had a review for a 5-minute major when Mark Boudreau did leave the game. He did come right back after that. But, again, when you get a Central Division matchup in the playoffs, the intensity is just magnified because these teams have played each other 6 times throughout the year, and then you're playing in a 7-game playoff series. It just adds that much more. Did you really tell – could you tell from somebody that, it covers the Western Conference that this was – you could tell that this was a divisional playoff matchup?
Oh, absolutely. Right from puck drop. I mean, these two teams, they're in their 5th game of a playoff series. They've already played 6 times during the regular season. It's been even all throughout the regular season. I mean, 3 all when it comes to the season series. One team winning 1 in overtime. Of course, here in this building, it was a Sudbury 8-7 victory in overtime. Mississauga winning in a shootout earlier on in the season as well. But you could really tell that Central Division animosity still came into this game. And, it has all series long. There were a number of times. I mean, think about David Goyette and Angus McDonnell fighting in game number 2. I think that bad blood, it started to peter off a little bit in this game as I feel like Sudbury started to control the tone and they were really controlling their emotions, realizing, hey guys, we can't get into any shenanigans. We need to take the lead, close it down, and just move away from any of the chirps, any of the after whistle pushing and shoving. It really died down as the series and even in this game went along. First period, you saw a little bit of it, but I think by the midway point of the second, all the way into the third period when Sudbury really took over this game, a lot of that really just kind of came to a close, and Sudbury just really wanted to, hey, let's move down the road. We're going to round 2. There's no way that we can get into this because you never know what can happen. You do one stupid thing, you could lose a guy for 2, 3, 4, 5 games because we've been seeing suspensions handed out like hard candy in this league this playoff season, as you can probably tell on the website. You can't do that if you're the Sudbury Wolves, especially when you're in an opportunity to advance. Don't get involved in that after whistle stuff. Just turn your head, turn the other cheek, and move on.
And we'll hear from Ken MacKenzie, who brought that up later in the postgame about they need a little bit of rest. They played 2 3-3s coming into the playoffs, and they want to make sure they have all their guys healthy as they move forward here into round 2. Well said there, Mark. So we'll move on into our scoring summary tonight, brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in Niagara since 1983. Check out their up-to-date job board at ehc.on.ca to find your next work opportunity today. The Sudbury Wolves got on the board quickly, 2:22, and it was Alex Ferrand, kind of a broken play there, and he was able to get one past Ivan Kovic early on, which was big because there was a lot of Sudbury Wolves fans in the building tonight. I believe the announced attendance was somewhere around 2,600 for this Game 5 playoff matchup, and it is what it is here in Mississauga, moving to Brampton next season. But
hey, it's better than the 15 in 2000 that we had in Games 1 and 2 in this building.
You're right about that, but the Wolves getting on the board first as the away team, actually scoring twice to get off to a 2-0 lead. What did you see there from the first half of the first period for the Wolves?
I really felt like they controlled the pace. I mean, when you get a lead early on, like Alex Ferrand did, that kind of set the tone for how this game was going to go. And then Evan Conyon, again, just a guy that's, puts himself in the right place at the right time on the power play. Those are those depth guys that you really need to come in and do the job. It's not always going to be David Goyette every night, despite what he did later on in the game. My goodness. Quentin Musty, the Dalibor Dvorskys of the world, these superstars that are expected to put the puck in the back of the net night in and night out. You need guys like Ferran. You need guys like Konyan. And even later on, you'll touch on it in a second, but Nick DeAngelis, I thought, had a fantastic game here as well on the back end. You need those depth guys going for you in key moments like this, and I think Evan Konyan did just that.
But you knew that this Steelheads team was going to, fight back. Their backs were against the wall, their season's on the line, and they were able to respond there with a goal in the latter half of the first period from Angus MacDonnell, their only power play marker of the night. And then early on in the second period, actually, I didn't even make it back up here before the Steelheads actually potted in their second goal. And that was a great play by Mark Boudreau, setting up Jack Van Volsen just had his stick on the ice, was able to pot that in. But the former Sudbury Wolf, Mark Boudreau, you could tell he had a little bit extra jump. He's trying to finish off his OHL career strong against a team that traded him away for a 15th round pick. And it seemed like every time number 89 was on the ice, he was really motoring because he was really putting it all out there, and he set up Jack Van Volsen to get the game tied at that point.
I felt like he was the best steelhead on the ice tonight. I mean, he was doing everything. Mark Boudreau, unbelievable OHL career, finished it off with a bang. And I mean, on that 2-2 goal, that's the fault of the Sudbury Wolves. In my opinion, that's a line change. You have that long change in the second period. Boudreau's able to get onto that 2-on-1, and just the way he outweighted the defenseman, trying to go down the near side, down the right wing side on this 2-on-1, defenseman sprawling toward the net, is able to outweight him, gets it over to Van Volsen, and we saw a similar play in the first period where Vandenberg just absolutely with a $10 save. Similar play this time, different result this time. It was Van Volsen putting it into the back of the net, and a big goal at that stage of the game for the Steelheads, because that really brought some life into this building.
Yeah, I mean, they finally made it 2-2 there because it was hard to get that momentum back from Sudbury because they really had silenced down the crowd. Their fans were getting into it. It almost felt almost half of a home game for Sudbury. So when you're a home team trying to silence the road fans, that's a tough thing to do in a playoff atmosphere where you're essentially playing a road game at home, and it's not something that you're really accustomed to, I think, when you're growing up as a hockey player in this league.
Yeah, it's like Toronto fans going to Buffalo.
Don't bring that up to me, Mark, please. Yeah, I was happy you brought up the Dominic Hasek reference earlier, but yeah, let's not talk about Matthew scoring 60 in front of 12,000 Leaf fans tonight, please. But we'll move on here to more. And as you teased, Nick DeAngelis, we're going to hear from him a lot here in this goal summary. I mean, that was a play where the Steelheads tried to get the puck out and couldn't. Mm-hmm. They tried to throw it up the middle of the ice when they probably had more time to rim it around the boards, get it out. That's what James Richmond wanted them to do. But they kind of throw it up the middle. Nick DeAngelis does a great shortstop move to grab it with his glove, put it down immediately, and is able to walk up and wrist one past Jack Ivankovic. That was a really nice goal from Sudbury and big at the time to get them the lead, but the Steelheads in that scenario, again, in the defensive zone with the puck would want to have that back.
Absolutely, and I think that play is just the Steelheads showing respect for the other guys that are on the ice. I mean, the top power play unit for the Wolves on the ice at the time, of course, the Konyans, the Musties, the Goyettes, the Dvorskys of the world, they're kind of down low. And there is a whole lot of real estate for Nick DeAngelis to work with at the top of the zone. Found that lane. You're not thinking he's going to shoot it. Just the way Sudbury was playing at that point in time, I felt like there were a couple overpasses. There were a couple of times where they had opportunities to shoot and they didn't. Right then and there, Nick DeAngelis had that lane, and he just saw that little opening. There was a little bit of traffic in front, and I think it surprised a lot of people that he can shoot it the way he did, going top cheddar, glove side on Jack Ivankovic. A big goal for the Sudbury Wolves. Got them the lead, another power play marker, and then early in the third period, this one felt like the game to me, Mark, because the Steelheads take another penalty out of frustration. Their bench is hot because they think that they should have been going on the power play a little bit before that, and they feel like they've been wronged with the calls in the game. And you can't do that with Sudbury because they're just going to make you pay, and then you're going to be even more in a hole. And that's what we saw here. I was talking to some of the Mississauga broadcast team up here, and we were just like,
it felt like that was the game right here when Quentin Musty was able to get his first of the playoffs, finally coming out to the party here with the rest of his teammates. He's been getting the points, but just hasn't been able to put one in. That was a slick play by Dvorsky to enter the zone, to find him cutting to the right side of the net. He went backhand, and then just at the last second went forehand and went far side on Ivan Kovic. That's almost an NHL-ready play there from the San Jose Sharks first rounder.
Hey, he's got a wicked shot right in there with very little room to work with. I believe there was maybe about 3-4 feet in between him and Ivan Kovic, because Ivan Kovic played up a little bit to try and take away the angle on the near side. But Musty, like you said, going from backhand to forehand and just being able to squeeze it under the 7-hole, right under the blocker's side. Not a lot of real estate to work with for Quentin Musty, but a guy, like you said, has an NHL caliber shot, an ability to just get those pucks into the right places at the right times when they have the ability to shoot. And Musty, again, made no mistake on that one.
And then more of the same here, another power play for the Wolves as Steelheads are trying everything to claw back in this game, down 4-2, but it's Nick DeAngelis with his second of the night, and that was a thing of beauty. I believe it went bar down, the pass from David Goyette and Dalibor Dvorsky setting that up for him. But second goal of the series, his second goal of the night for the Sudbury Wolves defenseman.
There was so much traffic in front of the net there. There was no way Jack Ivan Kovic was going to see that puck. I felt like that bounced maybe off a couple of legs on its way in, but it was DeAngelis' goal. He collected the puck. He was able to get his second of the night. And again, shooters shoot. DeAngelis has been shooting a little bit in this series and obviously had that first one. He gets the second one, and like you said, looked like it went bar down. And, you know, that's a goal scorer's goal, just being able to take advantage of those little spaces. And, again, the players in front of Ivan Kovic being able to take away the goaltender's eyes. That's what you need to do. You need to crash and bang. You need to put players in front of the net. You need to make life difficult for the goaltender, and that's what the Wolves did there.
And then David Goyette seals it on the empty net, needing 3 goals. Just typical what you see late in the game, late in the series. Team just needs 3 goals there to tie, and you pull the goaltender. It's very low possibility, but you got to try it anyway, and Goyette seals it from Dvorsky and Anania. Goyette's 4th point of the night. He set up 3 other goals, so I guess it was fitting that he capped off the series with the goal himself.
OHL scoring champion, just piling up the points. What is he going to do for an encore in round 2? That's going to be the question Wolves fans are thinking of, because what a season he has had. 117 points. And not even to think about the playoffs, but even thinking about next season. I know Wolves fans won't like me talking about 24-25 because they got a whole lot of hockey still to play here in 23-24. But if that guy comes back, he is about 80 to 85 points away from breaking the franchise record in regular season points. Think about that for a second. That is how good David Goyette has been in his time as a member of the Sudbury Wolves. When he's on the cusp of breaking records from guys that were around in the high-scoring 80s, you know you're doing something right. 117 points in the regular season, a 4-point night in the series sealer. David Goyette is a special, special player. The Seattle Kraken have a good one.
Absolutely, and that's a great pick by the Sudbury Wolves. If you go back to that draft, just what a find in David Goyette, and could go down as one of the greatest Sudbury Wolves in franchise history, which is saying a lot. They've got a lot of solid retired numbers up there in the rafters at the Sudbury Community Center. But the Wolves are on to round 2, and we saw the 3 stars given out at the end of the game there, Mark, to the 3 overagers for Mississauga. We see that around the league a lot there, with the final games for all the overagers, and giving them, I guess, the farewell 3 stars: Dean Locust, Mark Boudreau, and Chaz Sharp. Not an easy thing to do, especially losing a series like that, hard fought, and you're going out losing the series on home ice. The team's moving to Brampton next season down the road, but I guess quick thoughts on Sharp, Boudreau, and Lucas playing their final OHL games. I
don't think it's their last game playing hockey competitively. You're going to have 3 guys there that might find themselves playing in U Sports next season. You know, maybe one of those 3 ends up signing a contract to play in the ECHL next year. Maybe signing an amateur tryout contract, because there's still playoffs happening in the ECHL, in the AHL as well. You know, the end of the road is far for all three of these guys. I felt like all three of them had phenomenal OHL careers. Mark Boudreau has a lot of tools. Chaz Sharp, what a leader he has been for the Steelheads team this year. Called upon and has capitalized more often than not for the Steelheads team when they need him to. It's not the end of the road by a long shot for these three, but definitely a sad ending for the three of them losing on home ice here in Game 5. But definitely don't hold your heads, because you did good, kids. You did good. And they ain't kids anymore. They're full-grown adults, and they're going to play some hockey coming up in the fall. It's just a matter of where.
Absolutely. So we're going to get more post-game analysis in our second segment today, hearing from both coaches after this game, Ken MacKenzie as well as James Richmond. So stay right here. Be right back on OHL Overtime in our game recap of the Sudbury and Mississauga series right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012.
Wild Bill's Auto Repair is your local center for auto maintenance and repair in the Niagara region. Since 2012, Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop has been helping customers stay safe and confident on the road, knowing their vehicles in top running condition through their services. Located at 7868 Oakwood Drive in Niagara Falls, the garage started as a tribute to the owner's father, William Robert Hunter, who passed away, continuing the same community spirit and high level of service which customers came to expect from him back at Hunter's Auto Repair. Their multi-award-winning auto shop has earned the trust of the Niagara community with its fair treatment of all customers, who can feel confident they'll get the trustworthy advice and repairs during their visit. Their experienced crew loves meeting new people and looks forward to forming a lasting partnership for the care of your cars. To find out more or to book a service, contact them today, 905-358-7868 or wildbillsauto.ca. Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012.
In the Niagara region, Global Pet Foods is your destination for premium pet nutrition and caring expertise. Whether you've welcomed a new furry family member or need advice on top quality nutrition, their dedicated staff is ready to help. Discover why Global Pet Foods' lesser-known premium brands outshine the big corporate names. Their team's passion ensures your pet's health and vitality. Check out one of their locations today, 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, or 400 Scott Street and 344 Glendale Avenue in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where premium brands and caring staff make the difference.
Niagara Golf Lounge features 2 state-of-the-art indoor golf simulators, allowing you to play some of the world's best courses all year round. The perfect place to indulge all season long. Don't worry about getting thirsty while you play around with your friends. Their fully stocked bar offers a wide selection of drinks, appetizers, and a variety of meals are also available to enjoy before, during, or after you play. Grab a seat next to the fire in their comfortable sports lounge. Didn't bring your clubs? No problem. They have partnered with TaylorMade to offer you the best rental clubs. You won't want to miss their exclusive NFL and NHL giveaways for the Buffalo Sabres and Buffalo Bills. Located in the Best Western Plus Cairncroft Hotel, 6400 Lundy's Lane in Niagara Falls. Visit NiagaraGolfVacations.com to learn more and to reserve your golf bay today. The Niagara Golf Lounge, Niagara's home for golf and sport all year round.
J&L Flooring is Niagara's specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride and provide elite customer service and support. With a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety of truly unique products, J&L Flooring is your specialty flooring and decor boutique shop. All of their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel good about your flooring choices. Their goal is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they simplify the process to make your life easier and to make your home more beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls or find out more at jnlflooring.com. If you think you can get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack at J&L Flooring. Since 1999, Niagara Denture Clinic has been helping thousands of patients achieve natural-looking smiles with the confidence to show them off. Sean Battelle and his wife Anne, both licensed denturists, bring a wealth of skill and experience to the warm and friendly atmosphere to their Niagara Falls location at 5501 Drummond Road. And their on-site Niagara Hearing Clinic offers free hearing tests and a variety of services to fit your needs. This family-run practice takes pride in providing superior care and service to their patients, along with the best premium products available on the market. Get the best work done at a more reasonable price. Niagara Dental Clinic is here to help. Protect your teeth with a mouth guard, replace missing teeth, and get better hold with your dental implants. Call them today for a free consultation at 905-353-1552 or check them out online at NiagaraDentalClinic.com. Niagara Dental Clinic, creating natural smiles in the Niagara region for 25 years.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's OHL Overtime game recap right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, proudly brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair. Brandon Caputo joined alongside my guest co-host tonight, Mark Pare, called the game for Sudbury Radio on CKLU, as well as the color commentator for the Guelph Storm on Rogers TV. And we're not going to talk about the NHL team that he cheers for as well. But
hey, I was baptized by a Leaf.
Well,
true story.
That's unfortunate, Mark. I'll give you a break on that one. But before we get to the coaches in the postgame, Mark, you know, what is your, I guess, thought for James Richmond's club as they move forward here? You've got to look at, because in my opinion, and from the opinion of a lot of people that covered and watched the series, Mississauga was the better team 5-on-5. In a couple of portions of this series, they were just, I feel like they had the opportunity to take hold of the series and couldn't. That may be because of Sudbury's veteran experience, them being a very young team, and really shooting themselves in the foot with some undisciplined penalties and giving that Sudbury power play the chance to really open the game up. But what is your assessment of James Richmond's club as they go into the offseason here with a very young roster? And people might say that next year is their real window to really go for it. Hear from Ken MacKenzie really gave them a lot of praise as well. But what was your assessment from somebody that's called these games in this series?
I felt like for the Mississauga Steelheads, I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I'm one of the many that have been trumpeting the fact that I felt like they're a year ahead of schedule, where they have a lot of these young guys, a lot of guys that are finding themselves and finding their roles in the Ontario Hockey League. You're going to have guys that, there's only one NHL drafted player on this team, Angus McDonnell, going to Dallas last season. You're going to have a lot more NHL teams calling names of Steelheads that are on this roster this year, because again, these are guys that they have the youth, they have the speed, they have the ability to put the puck into the back of the net, and they did a very good job this year in doing so and winning games even down the stretch. I mean, you look what they did at the end of February and early March. If Oshawa doesn't go on the run that they did to finish off the season, people are talking about the Mississauga Steelheads and the run that they had late in the year. The way that they were able to push the tone, I think they only had one regulation loss in their final 12. I mean, this is a team that's, built for something special in the next year or so. You have, right in the back end, you have two goaltenders that, for my money, is the best tandem in the Ontario Hockey League in Ryerson Leenders and Jack Ivankovic. Imagine what they're going to be able to do next season. What Leenders is going to do after an NHL camp, because he's going to get selected in the draft. That he's going to go to a development camp this summer. The experience that he picks up there is going to be invaluable. And then you look at guys that are up front, the Porter Martones, the Dean Locuses. I mean, there's so much youth that have built up a little bit of experience and a little bit of toughness in this series that they're going to be able to take with them moving forward. You look at the Sudbury Wolves; they're in the same boat as they were in the same boat last year, I should say. A team that had a little bit of youth, trying to keep the puck out of the back of their net, youth that are trying to get some experience and. Really took the experience of being swept by Peterborough a year ago into this season, and, they are what they are right now, going on to round 2.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and we're going to hear from the Steelheads head coach James Richmond for his, I guess, end-of-season post-game press conference here, and it's brought to you by the Global Pet Foods. Our pets are undeniably part of the family in all 4 of their great Niagara region locations. Here is head coach general manager James Richmond of the Mississauga Steelheads on his young group's performance in this series and looking ahead towards next season.
I guess the way some of these games have gone down, do you want these guys to remember the way that they're feeling right now just when you look ahead to next year?
Yeah, yeah. We talk about it. It's never good losing, but I know the score didn't look like it, but we had a real strong game today. We didn't get blown out in the series, even though it's a 4-1. We didn't get blown out. I think if we went into it saying, hey, stay out of the box and we win the series, and we went to the box too many times and we lost the series. So we're going to learn from it. It stings right now. We're going to learn from it and be better next year.
That seems to be the consensus of speaking with a lot of people, feeling like you were the better team 5-on-5.
5-on-5.
Yeah.
Well, they're loaded. Yeah, I don't know if we're the better team right now, but they're loaded. But our guys are young and they're good, and we played really well 5-on-5. There's no question about it. So, unfortunately, the whole series didn't stay 5-on-5. So, but yeah, I mean, today take some bad penalties and they're loaded. So, good on them. Congratulations.
You talked about it all year, right? The youth, this team
coming into it, right? At the very beginning, before camp broke, we weren't going to be a playoff team. And then when we got off to a pretty good start, well, maybe we could be a playoff team. And then as things went along, we're fighting for the division title. We lose that, but we get home ice. So what these guys have accomplished, is pretty damn good, right? So I'm proud of them. I hate losing, but I'm proud of them.
What about some of the strides that some of these guys have made? Yeah. I mean, it's hard to single anyone out in that respect, I guess.
Well, you can go through the whole group. I mean, Chaz Sharp. Let's talk about Chaz Sharp. Been here for 5 years, and this year he just went up and up and up, and he's probably going to sign an NHL contract soon. Mark Boudreau's had 5 years of great hockey in the OHL. He came over here this year, pumped up, and he was one of our leaders. Dean Logus came over at the deadline and did pretty well for us. So, but the other guys, you look at all the 06s and 07s. You look at Ivan Kovac, you look at Draguska today, and Witkowski. They're going to be a hell of a player in this league. And the 06s, Carmeris, his game. I mean, that's a Mount Everest climb this year. So from last year to this year, pretty good hockey players. So we're going to have a bunch of guys drafted in the NHL draft. Miso over 80 points. Goose had a great year. I mean, they overachieved. For the age of the group, nobody expected a young team like this could compete in the OHL, and I think we showed a lot of people wrong.
To that point, obviously, we talked a little bit this year about kind of the big 4 guys being Misa, Martone, McDonnell, Sharp obviously moving on, but those 3 are still here. And what?
Yeah, I mean, we lose the 3 OAs, right? We lose the 3 overagers, and we got guys waiting in the wings to take their spots. I mean, Sherrod, he's going to move up. Witkowski's going to move up. You got Eggleton going to jump in, and I mean, we've got 6 of the 7 D back, so it's a pretty good lineup.
Do you think this was a good learning lesson for this group going up against a team like that and the way that they play?
You learn more from losing than you do from winning. Yeah. You have to. So it stinks. It absolutely stinks. We really thought that we could go in this series and win if we could stay out of the penalty box. And our guys showed great compete. Really good. We got great goalies. We got a real strong D-core coming back. And we got, like you say, a real good forward group coming back. So we're going to use it. It's going to sting for a little while, and we're going to be better next year.
We know the teams are built differently, particularly with Sudbury being so much older, but anything from the way they play the game you think these guys can take it as an example?
No, we're going to play Steelheads hockey. We're going to play our way, structured hockey, fast hockey, aggressive hockey. We're not going to counterpunch. We're going to get after it, just like we have since day one I got here. Elliot brought me in to change the culture. We've changed the culture. We've been a pretty good team. we lost. We won the Eastern Final. We lost in the league final, and we haven't missed the playoffs. So it's pretty good. We're going to continue to play the Steelhead way. Yeah.
I didn't mean to change it entirely.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, well, hopefully score more. Yeah.
You talk about the Steelhead way. Obviously, the season ends here in Mississauga. Just sort of impact and importance does that have? And obviously now you look ahead to something different.
A new year, you mean, or a new facility? Yeah. It's great. We're looking forward to it. All the people that want to go to a restaurant, they get a restaurant in the rink. Players will have a new room. They'll have a new lounge. They'll have a new gym. Coaches have new offices. So I'm looking forward to it.
Lastly, can you speak to Leenders? He was able to dress tonight, and Ivan Kovic has had to come in for him in the series. Can you speak to what he was able to do coming in for Leenders, and if the series would have gotten longer, do you think Leenders would have been able to play?
Leenders definitely would have got back in. Today he had his first real practice yesterday. So, do you put a guy in there? But Jack's been playing great hockey. So he won us a game up there, and I figured he could win us the game here tonight. I'm not looking back on that. We lost the game on PK, or power play. They've got loaded talent, and they beat us on 5-on-3, 5-on-3, 4-on-3, 5-on-3, today 5-on-4. I mean, off the post and in, 3 off the post and in. So I'm not looking at the goalies as anything, but Leenders would have been back in, yeah.
There was head coach, general manager James Richmond on the Global Pet Foods postgame for the Mississauga Steelheads. Mark, initial thoughts there from what the Steelheads head coach had to say there about his young group fighting all the way to the end against the Sudbury, older group.
It's going to be very interesting what happens a year from now with this group, with the experience that they gained through this season and through this series. Now, I know Sudbury fans are not going to be happy that I'm talking about North Bay on this, but there is something to behold when you move a team to brand new facilities, a brand new gym, like everything that James Richmond said about that new opportunity in Brampton. Ironically, of course, North Bay moving away from Brampton 10 years ago, going up to the Gateway City. Look what that change of location did for that team. First year in North Bay, advancing all the way to the Ontario Hockey League final. It's just something about that fresh air, that brand new opportunity, that brand new city, that brand new rink. For the Mississauga Steelheads, now the Brampton Steelheads. Yes, the Brampton Steelheads, although I did pitch Peel Steel as a potential name. Keep it Peel region, folks. But think about it. With the brand new opportunity that beholds the Mississauga Steelheads in a year that everybody thinks that they're going to be going for it, they're in a prime opportunity to do so. Imagine what this team can do with the guys that they have in place. Again, they're only losing their overagers, really. Everybody else is coming back, potentially. What can they do in a new facility with that renewed sense of playing for a new community, albeit it's only 10 minutes up the road? What can they do with everybody that they have coming back with the experience that they have? It's a bright future for this organization. It's going to be in a new home, but a bright future for the Steelheads organization. And I think they're going to be a force next season.
I found it interesting. James Richmond said that he didn't think that they were going to be a playoff team coming in the training camp, and then all of a sudden they took the league by storm this year. He talked about changing the culture here when the owner, Elliot Kerr, had brought him in, and the Steelheads have been a success. They haven't missed the playoffs under James Richmond as the head coach. He's developed a lot of players into becoming NHL drafted and pro hockey players. So you got to tip your cap to the head coach of the Mississauga Steelheads because he runs a solid program here in Mississauga, and he just needs a little bit more from this young group to put him over the top, but you can see why he's so well respected around the league.
It's so tough to do, too. You don't really see those head coach GMs working through one person working both roles anymore. George Burnett did it for a while in Guelph. He gave it up for Chad Wiseman in the last couple of seasons. Mike MacKenzie tried doing it in Kitchener. I talked to him before last season, and one thing that I asked him was, you happy that you don't have to go behind the bench and have to do all of those scouting trips at the same time too. He said, yeah, I love my I get to spend more time with my family, and I think that's a big thing for a young family that Mike MacKenzie has over there in Kitchener. James Richmond, it's not to say that he's abandoning anybody by any means, but it's such a tough thing to do to balance that schedule. I think he does it very well to fit in the time that he needs to fill in his personal life. And also take on the reins of a head coach and a general manager. And I think being able to take on both roles comes with that benefit at the same time, too, where you get the final say at the draft. You get to craft these guys and build them up on the bench at the same time, too. You see it in football all the time in the NFL, where you have the head coach and GM all with one person. Bill Belichick did it to perfection for 20 years. But it's such a tough thing to do, and I think James Richmond has a good handle on it. He's been able to do it, and he's shown that success in doing so over the last several years with the Steelheads organization. Well, again, I'll say it. They have a bright future, and James Richmond is a big reason why.
I think they're going to learn a lot from this series going up against that Sudbury Wolves team that I was trying to ask him about before he kind of jumped in there. That learning against a team like that's really going to test your mental stability to be able to try to not bait you in the penalties. I think the Steelheads team is going to learn a lot as they move forward in the next year playing against a team like that Sudbury Wolves group and hopefully come out the better side of it next year. But we'll have to wait and see until this team goes to Brampton just down the road, as Mark said. But we'll get into the second part of our postgame today, and that is with Sudbury Wolves head coach Ken MacKenzie, and that is brought to you by the Niagara Denture Clinic, creating natural smiles in Niagara for 25 years. Forgot to bring your mouth guard on the ice or lost a chiclet, contact our licensed team of denture professionals in Niagara Falls to get your smile back on track. Here is the Wolves head coach after his team's 4-1 win in the series and moving on to round 2. Well, Coach, I mean, you knew that the other team was going to have some fight tonight. You scored the first 2. They battled back with 2 more, but then 4 unanswered to close out the series. Just speak to being able to close out in 5 and maybe not getting a little bit more rest than it go into 7 and getting the guys ready to go for round 2.
Yeah, I mean, we can use a break. We've had a tough schedule at the end of the year. We played back-to-back weekends, 3-3, and then, to have to face a tough Mississauga team. That team has no quit in them. They are the team, and they're going to be the team of the future in this league. I mean, obviously a very well-coached team. I got all the respect in the world for that team. They got great goaltending, and like I said, they're going to be a real good team, down the road. And for us, we were an older team. We were hoping to take advantage of, our experienced guys, our older guys, and I think at the end that's what pulled through for us.
And your big guys came through when they needed to. Musty got on the board there, a little monkey off his back with the game winner. Goyette had 4 points. Dvorsky had 3 points. You needed your big guys to come through tonight, and they did. Just speak to that top 6 group being able to come through with all those goals and really seal this one.
Well, we did. I mean, anytime you're in a game like this here, and we knew it'd be the biggest game of the series when your backs to the wall and trying to finish off a series, and we knew we had a fight on our hands, and we weren't winning this without our big guys. I mean, they do it for us all year long. We've got great support staff, but when you need a big win like we did tonight, they came through for us, and I'm not going to go without mentioning their goaltending either. Made some big saves for us early. We put him in there, and he hasn't played for a little bit, and was a big part of this win. Felt real good for him too tonight.
And Vondras, do you plan for him to be able to get some rest and get back in there for the start of round 2, or are you confident that Vandenberg can hold the fort until your starting goaltender is ready to go again?
Yeah, we got to make sure he's 100%. This is something we didn't want to take a chance with. We're not, it is a lower body injury. We're not sure the severity of it right now, so we'll have it evaluated when we get back. But, the one thing we did at the trading deadline, and give Rob Pappen a lot of credit, we went out and got, another goaltender. We have 3 good goalies, and we don't hesitate. We could put any one of them in any given night, and we're waiting for some good performances in the playoffs here, and they've given us that every night.
And again, four goals in the power play. This is a team that you don't want to give chances on the man advantage. What is it about the power play that makes it so lethal, where teams really have to game plan to not go on the penalty kill, or else they're giving up 3 or 4 against you guys? 11 power play goals in the 5 games. Just what is it about the power play that makes it so successful with this group?
Well, again, you got some high-end guys out there. It's easy for us in a way when, most times we're very unpredictable in the power play. If you're going to cover one guy, you go after Dvorsky, we got Musty. We got Musty, we've got Goyette. And, we have some high-end guys that make high-end plays. And And for us, it's the depth of the power play that makes it, it wasn't like that all year long. We started off slow with our power play, worked hard on it all year long, and now when push comes to shove, the big boys are getting the job done for us.
And lastly, not to be forgotten, you guys travel a lot more than most of these teams in this league. So how are you able to get them prepared and get off the bus and not have the bus legs when you guys do, have that long travel and you do get in late and not maybe get as much sleep as some of the other teams do? How are you able to keep the guys fresh and make sure that they come out with strong performances and not really, show any sort of fatigue in that sense?
Well, the one thing about the travel with us, nobody really likes it, but we're used to it. So we do enough of those 3-on-3s. We do a lot of traveling. So, we prepare ourselves early in the week for that. We try to get our rest in when we can, but these guys they're in good shape. They're well-conditioned guys, and we try to eliminate all excuses. So the travel part, we can't use that for an excuse. So it is what it is. We live where we do, and we just get ourselves physically, mentally ready for every game.
Thanks, Coach. Congratulations. Best of luck in round 2.
Thank you very much. I much appreciate it.
There was Sudbury Wolves head coach Ken MacKenzie on the Niagara Dental Clinic postgame. Mark, what are your thoughts about Ken MacKenzie's group there as they move on to round 2? But he wanted to give a shout out to his goaltending there. Not too sure about Vondras if he's going to be ready to go for round 2, but it seems like he's pretty confident in throwing Krawchuk and or Marcus Vandenberg in the net. And talking about his power play kind of being unpredictable at times where they've got so many guys that they can go to and you can't cover all 5 guys on the ice.
It's such a good thing to have. When you have, as he mentioned, the guys that he has on that, especially on that top power play unit with Musty, Dvorsky, Goyette, Kanyan, DeAngelis on the back end too, who is such a great puck distributor. DeAngelis working as the power play quarterback. You have the other 4 that can put themselves and interchange wherever they basically want. When they have their way, they can put themselves into the right place at the right time, and DeAngelis just has to dish it. That's really all he has to do. When the Wolves are working to perfection with their power play, they are a very tough team to get off the puck. When you look at what they were doing at the beginning of the season before Dvorsky came here, the Sudbury Wolves were operating at roughly about 7% on the power play. They were trying to find their way. Dvorsky was a huge key factor because when you look at December, January, February, March, they didn't go under 30% on the power play throughout the entire season. That is just unbelievable. When you go from by far the worst power play in the league to a top 5 power play in the snap of a finger, Dvorsky produces such a presence to him, and he makes so many guys around him that much better. Everybody has their role on that power play, and they will contribute when they are given the opportunity to do so. And they're so selfless in it as well. If the opening's not there for a Quentin Musty on a one-timer on the near side, he has that innate ability to feed it to the far side. Look for that extra room. Look for that extra pass. Look for that, what can we do next? If they take away one guy, that second guy is there. The other thing that was mentioned that you just talked about was the goaltending. That's why you bring in a guy like Marcus Vandenberg. I've known Vandenberg since he was a Kitchener Ranger. Gets lost in a goalie carousel with Jackson Parsons, and I believe it was Marco Costantini at that point in time. He wasn't going to get the starts. You thought it was going to be Parsons and Vandenberg at the beginning of the year, but Kitchener was kind of going for it in that season, so they bring in a guy with the pedigree of Marco Costantini. Vandenberg gets lost. He's looking for a place to play, goes to Niagara, forms a formidable duo with, I believe, Owen Flores. But if you're the Sudbury Wolves at that point in time, you're scoring at such a great clip, but you're having trouble keeping the puck out of the back of the net. Vondras was struggling. Krawchuk was having a bit of struggles himself. They were winning games by those 6-5 score lines, those 8-7 score lines. And at that point in time, if you're the Wolves, you're realizing we can't keep doing this all season long. We're going to be burnt out by the time we get to the playoffs. So you bring in a guy like Vandenberg to kind of take a little bit of that load. And obviously it worked for them. There was still a little bit of struggles down the stretch keeping the puck out of the back of the net. But now that you're in a situation where, hey, we brought in this goaltender, and even at the trade deadline, the acquisitions that they made, It was focused on defense. They have the offensive firepower already. You bring in a guy like Donovan McCoy. You bring in a guy, obviously you bring in Nick DeAngelis at the beginning of the season from the Windsor Spitfires. You bring in a Noah Van Vliet who won an OHL championship a couple years ago in Hamilton. You have this championship pedigree. You have this back end that you've really built up at the trade deadline, and now you have this ability to continue to put the puck in the back of the net. The defense is improving as the season has been going along. You've been keeping the puck out of the back of the net a little bit more often than what you were seeing at the beginning of the year. This is the Sudbury Wolves team that has really it is that they're playing to their potential now, and they're going to be a scary team in round 2. And when you look at that power play, don't get into that battle with them on special teams because they're going to burn you each time, because that penalty kill, that can't be underscored either.
3 for 4 tonight.
3 for 4. Unbelievable. Great job keeping it away from the box and able to just send it down the ice. Their offense is working. Their defense is working. Their special teams are working. This is a scary team. Very scary going into round 2, but they know that the toughest is yet to come.
And lastly, I want to get your quick thoughts on this, kind of an under-the-radar move late in the season for the Wolves. They bring in Drake Berehowski as a defensive specialist, a guy that's played defense in the National Hockey League. He's had a long career coaching in the pros as well. What have you seen from the defense as far as getting a little bit better, having a guy like Drake behind that bench? And you can see how vocal he is back there, really coaching the guys and really being just that extra set of eyes to be able to help them out back there for Ken MacKenzie and trying to improve in an area that they obviously saw as a concern.
It's huge. I mean, you look what he did in the National Hockey League as a player. I mean, this is a guy that was also, coaching the defensive side of things for the Wolves before he went up to the pro ranks and coached in the ECHL with Orlando. Comes back and provides, like you said, those extra set of eyes that probably didn't lock eyes on this Wolves team all season long. It's that refreshing change of pace, if you will, trying to provide a little bit of a different look and try to change up things that weren't exactly going well for you. Drake Berehowski, it's a catalyst style of move where he can be that catalyst that really just kind of gives that extra message to the back end to say, hey, if this wasn't working, I did this once. This is a possibility that you could do to keep the puck away from the box. And they've been really keeping the Steelheads to the outside all throughout the series. There were a couple of times where they were able to kind of get that bumper play in, especially on special teams. But, Berehowski has really kind of drilled down what the potential could be for this Sudbury Wolves team on the defensive side. And to do it right before the playoffs, if it's working for you, you look at the National Hockey League level. Sometimes when you bring in a new coach mid-season, it can work out well for you. We've seen it multiple times in the last 10 years where a coaching change made in the middle of a season and all of a sudden they're a Stanley Cup winner. St. Louis did it. Pittsburgh did it. Drake Berehowski obviously not taking over as the head coach, but being able to provide a new set of eyes on the side of things that were a little bit of a struggle for you throughout the season. That's another key and another big key for the Wolves moving forward is having Drake Berehowski back there to really help you bear down on the defensive side of the puck, because the offensive side is really taking care of itself with the way you've been shooting the puck and putting the puck in the back of the net. One of the best offensive performances by a Sudbury Wolves team in their entire franchise history, but drilling down those holes in their game, Drake Berehowski coming in and doing just that is such a huge thing at this time of the year.
It's definitely been an X factor. We'll see how they move on with that experience. But we're going to put Mark on the spot here before we get out of here with our player of the game, brought to you by the Niagara Golf Lounge. Niagara's home for golf and sport year-round, located in the Best Western Cairncroft Hotel in Niagara Falls. Visit NiagaraGolfVacations.com to learn more, to host an event, or to book your golf day today. Mark, you got a lot of options today. DeAngelis had 3 points. Goyette had 4 points. DeAngelis was the one I was thinking of, but what are you going with today?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not trying to parrot you, but DeAngelis. I mean, the easy one would have been David Goyette, but I felt like his assists kind of felt a little bit more under the radar than what we're kind of used to from David Goyette this season, and his goal came on an empty netter. Let's be honest here. Nick DeAngelis, his presence on the ice was felt every single time. His 2 goals came at key points in this hockey game and really closed things out for the Sudbury Wolves. His ability to put the puck in the back of the net, can't be underscored. He took over and put on the points in such a showcase moment for him. You bring in a guy like him from the Windsor Spitfires at the beginning of the year. What a year he had, and this was probably his best performance yet on the offensive side of things.
Would you give an honorable mention to Marcus Vandenberg for early in that game, that big 2-on-0 save he made and keeping them in that game, and when you knew Mississauga was going to press, he made the saves when he needed 26 of 28.
Absolutely. First career Ontario Hockey League playoff start, Vandenberg shined. Absolutely. Being able to keep the puck out of the back of the net early really helped set the tone for the Sudbury Wolves. Of course, jumping out to that 2-0 lead, Vandenberg really held the Wolves in it. If he doesn't make those 2 saves, this could be a very different hockey game.
Absolutely. So Steelheads will look towards next year, a bright young team. They'll have a lot of good things ahead for them with James Richmond behind the bench as they look towards Brampton as well for their new home. And the Sudbury Wolves are on to round 2. We'll see who their opponent is, but remains to be seen. If this team continues to roll on the power play, it's going to be tough to take them down. But that's going to wrap it up for our OHL Overtime game recap and, series recap for the Sudbury Wolves and the Mississauga Steelheads. Pleased to be joined by Mark Pare from the Sudbury Wolves radio broadcast on CKLU, as well as the color commentator for the Guelph Storm Rogers TV. Mark, really appreciate taking the time this series to give your analysis here and stay after the games. It means a lot to me that you were able to give the listeners great analysis calling the games yourself. And maybe we'll see you in the conference final. It depends on if the Sudbury Wolves get there or not.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, even in, the next round, who knows what will happen, but conference final, yeah, again, depends if it's driving distance for me, living in Kitchener-Waterloo. So we'll have to see.
Much thanks to Mark for that, and that's going to wrap up our episode right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Thank you to all of those today listening on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Please give us some love on whatever one you chose to listen to us today, as well as give us a follow on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun stuff, and check out our website, armchairgmsports.com, for our latest feature articles. For Mark Pare, my name is Brandon Caputo. We're signing off here from the Paramount Fine Food Center one final time for a Steelheads hockey game as they move to Brampton next season. The Sudbury Wolves on to round 2 here in the 2024 OHL Playoffs. Until next time, this has been another episode of OHL Overtime right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. We'll talk to you again very soon. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.